When we first took Johnny to residential care, we were in survival mode. Those early parent meetings felt like drinking from a fire hose. There was so much information about adoption trauma to process, it was overwhelming. Our focus had to be on getting Johnny the help he needed, which meant letting some things slide. We just didn't have the mental space for it all at once. One principle I've shared on this podcast that's helped me understand Scripture is sitting with the text and letting it really sink in. I want to apply that same principle to some of the more information-packed episodes and break them down into shorter, focused segments. Each one will highlight a single concept with ideas to reflect on and apply on your parenting journey. I'll let you know which episode it came from so you can listen to it in its context. My hope is to make all the wisdom in this content easier to take in and use. Anchors of hope and healing are on the way. Today's segment, Adoption is Like a Car Accident, comes from episode 183. I want to encourage you to listen, take notes, and sit with the idea or ideas that speak to you. What I want to begin with is something that was told to us at residential, and this is something that I've shared with other adoptive parents. Regardless, and this is talking about Johnny, whether he was okay or not, we had to be okay. That was a gut punch. And it's hard to implement in your life. And it's one of those things that I've come to understand how to do it for myself. And there are other adoptive parents going through these same types of struggles. How can you be okay when a child is acting out and rejecting you? Can you start with that? And we can talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, it's a pretty common phenomenon. And sometimes even our biological children go through that at different times where they're just trying to individuate and they're trying to figure out who they are, and it can feel pretty rejecting. I think with our adopted kids, and especially if you have adopted children who have a trauma history before you got them, this can be particularly true, whether there's a diagnosis attached to that or not. And one way to think about it, and again, this kind of depends on what age you adopted your children. But let's just say for illustration, so you adopt this child and they're less than a year old, and maybe you got them out of foster care or you got them, from an orphanage or whatever. So and even if you got them at infancy, there's a bit of a car accident
Mm-hmm.
that's happened because adoption is built on loss. Your child had to lose something very, very important to them in order to come to you. And that's their wound. And so sometimes they can just roll along just fine in infancy, toddlers. They're going along pretty good. They're in middle school where there's not a lot of, or not middle school, but elementary school, because there's not a lot developmentally going on with us then. But then you hit those preteen and teen years. Developmentally, at that point, our brain is growing ridiculously fast, and we see the world differently because our brain is growing ridiculously fast. And by now, if you're 11, 12 years old, 13, you are very well aware that there are other people in your circle who are not adopted. They're biological children. You're very well aware that other people's families are not your family. You're very well aware of a lot of things, and so you kind of go back. It's like if you're on street level and you see a car accident, it might look bad, but you kind of don't see all of it. So if you're next to a building and you go up to the second floor and you look down, you can see more of the car accident. If you go up to the third or fourth floor and you look down, now you can see this accident or this tragedy in from a different viewpoint. And that's a little bit about what happens as our kids are developing through this world of adoption and coming to terms with what that means for them. And it's very personal and very individualized. Some children just sail right through it, but other kids get a little rough and bumpy around some of this stuff, and some kids get a lot rough and bumpy around it. So what that can look like is all of a sudden a child who's been kind of open with you and talking with you about stuff, and you maybe felt connected to them, all of a sudden you don't, and they might be isolating more, they might be getting in trouble more, and very often it's kind of hard to know exactly what to do with that. because you want to talk to them. You suspect it's something about adoption, but you're not quite sure. So it can be a confusing time for children and for parents as well. And our tendency as parents, I think, is that we want to alleviate pain and suffering and hurt in our children. We don't want our kids to hurt. I know we talked a lot about you have to be okay even if your child is not. And there's varying ways to try to achieve that. None of them are easy because we don't like to see our children hurt. To use a accident example again, one of the things we used to talk about a lot in our parent meetings was this example. If I hit you out here in the parking lot with my car, and let's just say I hit you and I break a leg or I break both your legs, all right? At the end of the day, it doesn't matter whether I did it on purpose or by accident. You're still hurt. And so it took me a minute to kind of get my head around that. And so the way I use it now is, so I hit you with my car and I get out and I tell you, I'm so sorry. I didn't see you. And I give you context. I call the ambulance. I pay your medical bills. I come see you in the hospital and all that stuff. And you know what? You're just going to feel better about me. Or let's say I hit you and I didn't realize I hit you and I just kept driving. Okay, you're still in the middle of the road with a broken leg or maybe two. None of that of me getting out of the car and trying to make things better for you and explaining things to you is going to take away your pain. It is not going to help you heal faster. At the end of the day, you've got to do the healing. Your body has got to do that. You're just going to like me better. That's it. So when we think about adoption and that it is built on loss, a lot of times I'll say to children, look, especially for our ones that don't have a good story, they don't have a happy adoption story, your parents they hit you with their car. And no matter how you feel about them, and you can have a lot of feelings about being hit with a car, but you've got to do the healing. That's your wound. And so as parents, that message a lot is this is your child's wound, and no matter what you do, you cannot heal that. They have to. So what's the best environment I can create as a parent that can help my child heal or aid in that healing process? And knowing you cannot take it from them, no matter how hard you want to. And that's your part to deal with. What's coming up for you that maybe is making it so difficult for you to understand that this is a journey your child has got to be on. They have to walk this path in order to get better. And sometimes our own past as parents interferes with our ability to see what does my child need from me right now. And sometimes it's just about letting your child know that the door is open, I'm available to talk to you. And if you don't want to talk to me about what's going on, there's a therapist, or maybe there's Uncle Joe who was adopted as well, or you have all these people around you that you can talk to about how you feel about being hurt. And I'm okay if it's not me. I'd like for it to be me.
Mm-hmm. As this segment illustrates, Jane is a wealth of wisdom. Here are a few takeaways and questions for you to sit with. Number 1. Adoption is built on loss. Ask yourself, what is my understanding of the loss my child experienced before joining our family? Number 2. Adopted children may express their pain as rejection or acting out. Ask yourself, how do I respond when my child seems to be acting out or withdrawing from me? Number 3. You can't heal your child's pain for them. Ask yourself, in how many ways can I provide a safe and supportive environment for my child to heal from their loss? And finally, number 4, whether your child is okay or not, you have to be okay. Ask yourself, how do I manage my own well-being when my child is struggling? I would encourage you to sit with this episode. Make your own notes and think about ways that you can support your children. That's all for this episode. I want to thank you so much for joining me. It's my hope that with these shorter segments, you will be able to process and apply the principles that will help you navigate your parenting journey. Until next time, this is Tim encouraging you to do what you can now. I hope today's episode encouraged you to face the storms in your parenting journey with courage and confidence. If so, would you please share this episode with another adoptive parent? It would also bless me in the mission of this podcast if you would take a couple of minutes and leave a review for the show on Apple Podcast. Until next time, this is Tim, encouraging you to do what you can now.